Rico shivered. The air was thick with the smell of salt and fish. He pulled his jacket tighter. It was his second week working the night shift on Pier 3. The old creaking timbers of the pier groaned under his feet. He was still getting used to the job, the eerie quiet, and the strange stories the other workers told. Rico's job was simple enough. He was a night watchman. His duty was to patrol the pier, making sure everything was secure. He had a flashlight and a whistle, his only companions against the darkness. The pay wasn't great, but it was a job. He needed that. Every night, the same routine. He'd clock in, check with the day shift foreman, and then begin his rounds. The pier stretched out before him, a labyrinth of shadows and strange noises. The waves crashed against the pilings. The wind howled through the rigging of the docked ships. Rico tried to focus on his job. He knew the stories were just that, stories. But there was something unsettling about Pier 3, something that sent shivers down his spine. The clock on the warehouse wall ticked past midnight. Rico always felt a sense of unease when it struck 12. He wrapped his arms around himself, trying to ward off the chill. It wasn't just the cold, it was a deeper, bone-chilling cold that seemed to seep from the very core of the pier. He continued his rounds, his flashlight cutting a thin beam through the darkness. The only sounds were the lapping of the waves against the pilings and the distant cry of a seagull. He shone his light on the rusted winches and chains, relics of a bygone era. He remembered the stories his co-workers would tell. Tales of strange lights, unexplained noises, and most haunting of all, the woman in white. They said she appeared at midnight, walking the length of the pier, her face always hidden from view. Rico scoffed at the stories. Ghosts weren't real. They were just stories, meant to scare the new guy, but deep down, a part of him couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. He picked up his pace, eager to finish his rounds. He just wanted to get back to the relative safety of the watchman's shack. The next night, Rico found himself drawn into a conversation with Joel, an older watchman with kind eyes and a weathered face. Joel had been working on the pier for decades, and he had seen it all. As they huddled around a thermos of coffee, seeking warmth against the biting wind, Joel began to share some of the pier's darker secrets. "This place," Joel said, his voice low, "it's got a history, see? Things happened here. Bad things." He went on to tell Rico about the legend of the Aswang. It was a creature, he explained, a shapeshifter that could take on the form of a beautiful woman. It lured men to their deaths, preying on their loneliness and despair. Rico tried to dismiss it as folklore, but there was a conviction in Joel's voice, a fear in his eyes that gave him pause. He had heard the stories about the woman in white, but he never connected them to the Aswang. "They say," Joel continued, his voice barely a whisper, "that she comes for those who are weak, those who are vulnerable. She can smell fear, you see." Rico felt a shiver run down his spine. He tried to laugh it off, but the stories were getting to him. He couldn't help but glance over his shoulder, searching the shadows for any sign of movement. A thick fog rolled in that night, blanketing the pier in an eerie silence. Visibility was reduced to mere feet. Rico felt a knot of anxiety tighten in his chest. He hated the fog. It made everything seem closer, more real. He was halfway through his rounds when he saw her. A figure, shrouded in the mist, standing at the edge of the pier. She was facing away from him, her long dark hair flowing in the wind. Rico froze, his heart pounding in his chest. He fumbled for his flashlight, his hand trembling. He shone the beam on the figure, but the fog seemed to swallow the light. He could barely make out her form. "Hello?" His voice came out as a strained whisper. The figure didn't move. He took a step closer, then another. He had to be sure. He held his breath, his eyes straining to pierce the fog. As he got closer, he could have sworn he heard a soft, mournful cry. It sent chills down his spine. He stopped, his fear turning to ice in his veins. He knew somehow that he was not alone on the pier that night.